Hi, my name's Chris,
And I'm Andy.
and today we're going to talk about Sam Altman.
Yeah, so it's been a weird saga, like this week, basically.
Yeah.
He's gone from being fired from an 100 billion pound dollar uh, startup to being right back there again. And it's been a bit of a saga. What do you think about the situation up to this point?
I mean, it's pretty. So we have our own board of directors, right? So we know how slow kind of decisions and strategy and how the corporate side of things works. So can you imagine how much chaos it must have been for him to get hired, fired, and rehired, and then have
Yeah.
like 700 members of staff threaten to leave? Like, I can't begin to imagine the chaos that was probably going on behind the scenes.
They also don't have like a standard corporate structure, right? So
Yeah.
like they have effectively a non-profit. They're a non-profit structure and a non-profit board, and then they have a for-profit entity wholly owned as a subsidiary underneath, which is actually kind of interesting, and it does have like some parallels with us in that we have a non-profit organization that has a shareholding in
Yeah.
us. But yeah, it's a very strange kind of path for sure.
Do you think kind of how many board members do you think were actually happy for him to leave?
Well, the reasonings given, like I think there's obviously been some political maneuvering that's been happening, right?
Yeah,
To put it to put it
you
lightly.
could say that.
In terms of people that actually wanted Sam Altman to leave, that's quite a tricky one. Like, I would say that I think there's specific members that wanted him gone for very specific reasons.
But
And
they're still going to be there, though, right?
yeah,
That's the crazy thing is that he was like fired and then rehired, but the people who probably wanted him to leave now have to kind of stomach that decision, and they have 700 members of staff who support him, and then they know now that the real value is in the relationship between the CEO and the staff. Because I mean, that's pretty crazy to think that so many people were supporting
yeah,
him and his vision for OpenAI. It makes me think there's more of an ethics thing around the direction that the board wanted to take OpenAI. Somehow the staff found out, because I don't think it's just I like Sam that much that I'm going to quit my job for him. I think it was more about this new CEO and the new direction they were going to take OpenAI, which could have been maybe not ethical, and the staff kind of,
Well, so they've actually gone through two CEOs, haven't they, in
Mm.
the time frame? And the second CEO was, from what I understand, pretty instrumental in bringing Sam Altman back in the first place. So asking for like evidence of wrongdoing, basically,
Yeah.
a justification for the removal of him in the first instance, and then would you know, after asking that, he's back a day later. So that's
Yeah.
certainly interesting. But I think ultimately this stuff always comes down to money, and there's like chatter out there about Project Q Star and what that could potentially be. I mean, like the name lends itself to it being some kind of project related to reinforcement learning and sort of the elements of A star search, which is like unlimited look back and look forward, and combining that with probably their LLMs in some way. I think there's a lot of marketing buzz around that, and it's like trying to spin this into a good thing. But I don't think there's probably much in the way of legs there of that being the actual reason. What is interesting though is that the one of the members of the board, who is the CEO of Quora,
Yeah.
he has a competing product that just got that just launched with Poe, which was that chat platform, like for customized chatbots, and then custom GPT comes out is announced, and but the reasoning for Sam Altman's firing is like, he hasn't been candid. I think that's code for, hasn't told me about a competing product we're launching.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is now, right, that so many companies are developing AI-led solutions. It's going to be hard when you when you sit on multiple boards and you're involved in,
to not have that
oh,
conflict.
I have a conflict of interest. Like when we
Yeah.
started this in like 2015, there weren't as many AI companies springing out of everywhere. So conflicts of interest. Well, we actually had a director have to step down on the board due to a conflict of interest of a similar AI business, actually.
Yes,
Come to think of it. So we actually did have that in 2016, 17.
It's going to be way more common now, though, especially with like the AI kind of gold rush that's happening at the moment. Everyone's like, oh, how can we fit AI into things?
Thing is, secret source is discussed a lot at board level. So when you're talking about how you train the models, like where you're getting your data from, like decisions you're making with the AI, you can actually use that information in other businesses. So when we talk about conflicts of interest, it genuinely probably is, because you're talking about methods and the ways that you use AI and do things with it. Not say like sitting on two marketing companies, sitting on both their boards, knowing how one company does the same thing as the other. It's probably not as much of a conflict in reality, because it's just kind of the same processes.
Yeah, I think effectively at the heart of this matter, like you were saying, is there is some kind of conflict of interest, and this is like a kind of what's the word, a use case in how conflicts of interests at board level can really disrupt operations and really make them, make a big dysfunction, shall we say?
Yeah, probably sheds too much of a light on kind of what happens behind closed doors a little when you get kind of these big corporate decisions and you're looking at dividends and profits and potential projects that you're working on. But it's nice to see, though, that actually having a community of staff that kind of back you and support you can kind of overturn these things.
Yeah, because let's be real. The big driving force behind Sam Altman's reinstatement is his staff.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think he's a good person?
I couldn't make that.
It's pretty good endorsement for him, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good endorsement. Obviously we don't know him. I couldn't say, but sounds like he's a good boss, right? Yeah. Like if 700 of your staff are willing to leave with you, I think you've earned their trust somehow. Obviously,
but couldn't get the trust of the board though that fired him.
Yeah,
but that lends itself to what you said again about competing products and conflicts of interest, right?
Yeah.
Everything comes down to money.
I mean, OpenAI, they're effectively a non-profit organization. They even have a disclaimer on their site that's like, if you're investing in OpenAI, you could lose all your money, because what they're doing is they're not a profit-seeking entity. They're trying to build artificial general intelligence. So they're quite away. They're obviously away from that. Project Q, whatever Q Star, whatever that turns out to be, might be interesting. We can see going forward what that is. But it's very clear that the people that work in OpenAI, they want Sam Altman at the helm when whatever they're working on comes to light, and they don't trust other people to do it.
Yeah, and what they're doing is pretty important. Like, it has a big impact. Like, ChatGPT has changed a lot of things. So it is important that they have good leadership with ethics, with consideration, with an understanding of how this technology impacts the world, because everyone's using ChatGPT for everything now.
It would certainly be interesting to see how the ethics portion of OpenAI plays out over time.
I suspect for a long form podcast, we'll probably talk more about Sam and OpenAI.
Yeah, and definitely impact on AI ethics.
Yeah, I think we could talk. You could talk about AI ethics loads, I think. But I think that's a good point to probably wrap up this bite size short on Sam Altman.
I mean, I don't think it's settled yet, and I think there's more to come. And it's certainly interesting to see like what revelations come forward in the coming days.
Yeah.